home solar or home wind kits from Home Depot. Why not? Because they're ridiculous, they're not cost effective, you never get your money back, and everybody knows it. So the only way they'll work is with massive subsidies. Even with the massive subsidies, they're massive losers. They're technological failures. The Rancho Seco power plant in California is a great example of this. It was a 980-something megawatt nuclear power plant, shut down in Sacramento after years of overruns from environmental protests and massive changes. The state of California put hundreds of millions of dollars into solar arrays. At one point, it was the largest solar array in the world, and in the end, it produced 0.05% of the authority's electricity, which was enough, in the authority's own words, to take up some of the air conditioning load on a hot summer day. And the only reason it worked was because they bought electricity from the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant down the coast, a dual nuclear plant, 2 gigawatt, right? And this plant has been a massive failure, but you walk through and you see 20 acres of solar arrays, and they pointed out, you get a massive apparition of all this energy, and in fact, they're buying it from neighboring states and from nuclear power plants. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. So what are they going to do about this? It doesn't work even with the subsidies. How can you make solar and wind then attractive if it doesn't work? There's only one way to do it. How do you do it? You raise the price of coal, hydroelectric, nuclear, and natural gas power so high that suddenly it looks attractive. And how do you do that? You put a tax on carbon. So the whole purpose of cap and trade is to come up with a phony baloney tax on carbon, which is intentionally, and this is straight out intention, this is its intention, to raise the price of energy by 50 to 100%. It's a giant protection racket. It's the mafia coming to your door, you know, and they say, give me $200 and I'll offer you protection. And you say, but I'm safe, who do I need protection from? And they say, well, there's always us. Right? And so the whole intention was standard of living, much lower disposable income than you have now, so you'll get used to living that way. And if you want to see how solar and wind is going, actually look at the United Kingdom. It's a great example, and you find that the industry is dying, the companies are shutting it down. It's been a massive failure. If you also want to see how the future actually goes, look at the status of the wind project off Nantucket, which was shut down by groups headed by Ted Kennedy, who wanted to sail his yacht in Nantucket Sound and didn't like the sight of the windmills. And look at the fact that California companies are finding it impossible to set solar arrays in the Mojave Desert because the environmentalists think that even placing a footprint in the desert is spoiling pristine nature. You can see that all of this is a massive attack on property rights, right? But it's something far deeper than that. It's an attack on human life and action per se. It's an attack on human action per se. Movement, action, even being alive is actually what's being attacked here. There's a website where your children can go and look up their carbon footprint. They can enter their age, tell where they live, what kind of lifestyle they live, and this website will compute the amount of carbon they give back, they're giving off, and will tell them what age they have to die at in order not to be of harm to the earth. You might say to yourself, and you'd be right to say, but there are rational scientists who are looking at these problems and some of these conclusions. And of course there are people who genuinely love nature. I love nature. I want to see parks preserved. I want to be able to walk around in nature, of course, which is why I want it under human control so it can be managed. The question follows from that then is, why aren't these people then repudiating the people who say explicitly, the leaders of the environmental movement who say mankind is a virus and we can only wait for its extermination? Why are they not repudiating the environmentalist leaders who say the earth will not be returned to its proper state until 3/4 of humanity dies? Why are they not repudiating the people who say not until human life is reduced to below 1 billion people on earth? Why are they not repudiating the Friends of the Earth who are fighting biotechnology and chemical use in Africa to try and stop farmers who are struggling on a subsistence level from actually attaining prosperity? Why are they not repudiating the people who are doing this? Why are they not repudiating the banning of DDT, which is still killing 1 million to 200 million people, 1 million to 200 1 million to 2 million people per year, based on Ruckelshaus, the EPA commissioner's unilateral banning of DDT in 1972, which went against the advice of his own scientific staff, and when he stepped down as EPA commissioner, he went right to work for the Environmental Defense Fund as a lobbyist who was opposed to DDT. Why are they not opposed to this? They're supporting these people. How many of you people know where the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta came from? This is a great story. The origins of the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. Well, the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta was formed after the Second World War in response to a massive malaria problem in the United States. Something like 30 states in the United States were infected with malaria. Malaria used to be a big problem in the American Southeast in particular. And starting in 1947, the center was formed to fight malaria. And a massive DDT program, spraying program, was put in place in the United States. And in 2 years, millions of spraying operations, including direct spraying within homes and around homes. And I know as a kid, before it was banned, we used to go around every year around our house and put the powdered chlordane around the house like this, right? And massive spraying campaign began in 1947. Millions of doses of DDT sprayed by low-flying airplanes as well as by direct application to houses. In 2 years, malaria was eliminated from the United States. And the program was shut down. There was no more need for it. That's what DDT did for life in the United States. And from that point on, malaria became a disease for us to think about that people overseas suffer from. That's the promise that DDT holds out for Africa. If in the 70s, if we wanted to do something for people overseas, we could have promoted the use of DDT in Africa, and malaria would not be killing 20% of all infant deaths in Africa due to malaria as it is today. Instead, DDT was banned. Rachel Carson's book came out and highlighted something which, by the way, the studies showed that the eggshell studies of bird eggs were flawed, was not correct. DDT is definitely a poison. I would not eat it. Nobody's saying eat DDT. But it is most definitely effective at ending mosquitoes and therefore malaria. And malaria could have been banished from Africa. DDT was used on Madagascar, which resulted by the late 1970s. There were something like 17 cases of malaria in Madagascar. DDT was stopped, and malaria is now a major health scourge back again in Madagascar within a few years. Right? The environmentalists have the blood of at least 100 million people on their hands from DDT alone. That blood is on their hands. They have killed more people. This is not metaphor, it's not hyperbole, and it's not inference. It is direct deaths. They have killed more people than the Nazis just from DDT alone. And they don't care. Why don't they care? Because human life is not their standard, and ideology is what is driving them. So therefore, it is pointless to argue with them about why it is that cap and trade will raise energy prices, because they know it will raise energy prices. That's the point. It is pointless to argue with them that the plans will increase government controls, because they know it will. That's the point. That's the goal. It's a lesson I learned a long time ago. Don't try to convince somebody of something of which they're already convinced. Right? Don't argue with them on those terms. This is a massive invasion of rights, and it is a massive attack on human life per se. It has to be fought on that level and uncompromisingly. So, for those who feel strongly enough about this issue to come to this room, I urge you to write to your congressman, to write to your senators, write that short letter to your senator, to your congressman, to both. Short, sweet, handwritten. I will not vote for you if you vote for cap and trade. Period. I will not vote for you if you vote for the socialized medicine. Period. That's all it takes. And said, I will not donate money to your campaign if you continue to support this, and especially to the Republicans who compromise. Especially to them. So that's what I have for you on this. I hope this has been enlightening, and let's take some questions.